Okay. Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Kalila Harris. I am the gallery manager and curator at Meharry Sequoia Gallery. And today we have our artist talk with artist Quinci Baker and guest curator Maleke Glee. We're so happy to have you guys here. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having us.
So this exhibition, Show Your Hand, is Quinci Baker's first solo exhibition, a recent graduate of Yale University School of Art with her MFA. We're so excited to have Quinci Baker here at the gallery, a DMV native, as well as Maleke Glee. We're just really happy to be a part of your journey in this way. So we're just gonna get started with intros and bios. So first with Quinci Baker, the lady of the hour. Quinci Baker is a mixed media artist from Prince George's County, Maryland. Her work combines synthetic hair and various craft and repurposed materials in an exploration of collective memory and identity. Baker earned her BFA from the Cooper Union School of Art in 2017, where she received the Michael S. Vivio Memorial Prize for Excellence in Drawing and the Karen Tendler Lurkis Award for Excellence in Painting. She received her MFA in painting/printmaking at the Yale School of Art in 2022. Our guest curator, Maleke Glee, is a Washington, D.C. based curator, writer, and cultural worker. Maleke is the inaugural director of Stable, dedicated to strengthening Washington, D.C.'s contemporary visual arts community by providing affordable and sustainable studio space and collaborating with local, national, and international partners to provide programming and exhibition opportunities. Glee is also an adjunct professor in the Department of Fine and Visual Arts at Bowie State University and has lectured at Georgia State University, Georgetown University, George Mason University, and Queen's University. Glee obtained his MA in Cultural Sustainability from Goucher College and BFA in Arts Management from Howard University. Again, I want to thank you both so much for being here. And I'm really excited to get this talk going. So of course, something that really stuck out to me and what's been beautiful to witness is you guys' friendship. And so we're just gonna dive in by learning a little bit more about the two of you, your friendship, and what this collaboration means for the both of you. Being from the DMV and having gone to the same high school, the two of you have been friends for over 10 years. So can you tell us a little bit more about your friendship and the arts and how this exhibition is a special moment for the two of you?
Maleke, do you want to start?
Sure. Thank you, Kalila, and thank you, Meharry, and the gallery. It's been a great experience. And Quinci and I have been friends for over a decade. And Quinci, I'll talk about the exhibition, but I just want to say always, like, Quinci just inspires me so very much. You know, when we first met at high school, we went to performing arts high school in Quincy, Suitland High School, and Quinci was a visual art major, I was a theater major, and we had some mutual friends and connected. And I think the rifts between our two disciplines kind of inspired each other's practice. And this exhibition, we've always been looking for a means to have an official collaboration. I mean, we've been speaking around partnership, sharing ideas for the decade that we've been friends. And so when this exhibition came as an opportunity, it was just great timing, a challenging timing for things that we're juggling, but great timing in that it's an idea that we wanted to see through to fruition. So I'm going to pass to Quinci, but I just want to say it feels like a culminating moment and really just a beginning moment. In her conversation with Nancy, they talk about an exhibition being like old ideas. And I mean, we can get to those conversations in the catalog a little bit later, but I do think about that. Like, now that we've gone through this journey, there's things that we would have done differently and things, new ideas that have sprouted. So looking forward to continued partnership with you, Quinci.
Oh, I am so looking forward to continue partnership with you, Malik. Yeah, just to add on to that, it really feels like a long time coming. I'm so excited to have worked with you for this project, Malik, and it was truly collaborative. Just when we go more into the details of the show, it was just Malik and I got together and really planned this exhibition out in one really long Zoom call. And Malik and I, we just know each other so well. So we were really feeding off of each other. And yeah, I'm just so appreciative of you. I'm so happy to have done this with you, and I hope we have a lifetime partnership.
We will.
Having back and forth.
Yes.
Very beautiful. So before we really get into talking about the exhibition and a little bit more on this collaboration, help us understand a bit more about what this collaboration really meant to you by sharing with us a really significant moment in the process of bringing this exhibition to fruition.
I think a big moment for Malik and I with this exhibition was when Malik came to visit me in New Haven. He came to my studio at Yale right around my thesis. I was putting my thesis up, and we really were able to have, we were able to see in the flesh like something big that I have been working on, and just kind of diving in. Malik and I know each other on such a personal level, but I think we got to understand each other on an artistic level in a new way during our conversations while he was in New Haven. And that really made it feel like the right time to work on something together, because we had both kind of entered a new space as creatives, and our conversations were just, they were hitting different. I thought it was a great conversation. I got very excited for the potential of the show and how we could really make this exhibition like a project and an installation, as opposed to just a generic, this is what I've been working on type of exhibition. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would agree. I actually revisited that conversation in preparation for today. So in February, when I visited Quincy, I recorded our conversations, and there's so much that the world will see that happened in those conversations. Our interest in music videos, our interest in just growing up in PG County, and what that meant for us. And I just want to highlight again, I think that that was a very important visit and really did encapsulate what would become the show. And at that time, the show was very different, now that I listen to the conversation, than what everyone's experiencing. I think visually it's different, but I think what we're looking to communicate has the same kind of basis and starting point.
Interesting. So now that we've gotten a little bit of behind the scenes of the exhibition, I'd really like to transition into exploring the pieces. So allow me to share my screen. So here we have, I guess this is the view when you walk in and you turn towards the majority of what is a part of the exhibition. You have here the video, which this exhibition centers around. The stands, which is a powerful set of pieces. Venus, the piece that everybody's been fighting over, and then Untitled, which is one of my favorite pieces in the exhibition. So Quincy, tell us a little bit more about this video, this moment. Of course, visitors are going to be able to see it when they come in, and we did share some of the video on our Instagram page, but walk us through the selection of this video, what it meant to you, and then transition towards this piece.
So I made this video last year. It was probably the first piece. There are some pieces in the show that are from the past also that are from last year, but I think I made this video before anything else. And most of the show, like you said, is centered around it. And basically I was thinking about icons by means of Black hair. And I thought of Venus and Serena Williams, and I was doing some research. They always just give me so much information, inspiration, just looking at pictures of Venus and Serena, because I think a lot about my childhood, and they're staples in my memory of my childhood, my identity around being a Black girl, and thinking about hair. I always come to Venus and Serena. So I was doing some research, Googling both of them, and I started to Google them separately. I looked for Venus pony beads. I was just looking for great images of her, and I saw a lot of articles about this game, this match, the 1999 Australian Open, where Venus was 19 years old, competing against Lindsay Davenport. And in this match, I learned that she lost a point. I learned that it was a much bigger thing than I had ever known. I hadn't really heard about this story. I was about 5 years old when it happened. And after looking at all of this footage, I was just like, this is just, it kind of, a lot of the things that I work on, thinking about collective identity and using hair as a medium to explore the idea of the collective, and collective grief, collective pain, and just this group mindset. I felt so frustrated looking at all of this footage, but also really inspired by Venus. And I just wanted to make something that kind of encapsulated my perspective as a child, as a woman now, looking back on this moment, as an artist who uses this type of medium and the particular lens that I have, just diving back in and just kind of ebbing back and forth and trying to feel, and then also trying to have a narrative point. So yeah, so that really explains the video. And in the video, you see some highlights of Venus playing, and then you also, a lot of it is her interview with a TV correspondent, and they're basically, just kind of belittling her and making this moment seem like it's completely her fault and that she deserved to lose a point because beads fell out of her hair. But she handled it amazingly. And the painting, I really wanted to emphasize what it was like looking at the playbacks and how powerful she was. So there were two things happening. I was like very angry about looking at how Venus was being treated, inspired by her poise and her wit, honestly. And I see her so young. And then also looking at these playbacks, I just saw how powerful this young lady was and what this meant as an introduction to her into the limelight. And just kind of thinking about what gets projected on somebody when they finally step out into their light, what happens right away, because this is one of her first rounds of being in the international competition circuit. So yeah, the painting, I just really wanted to emphasize that power. Mm-hmm. And I think the video, definitely you get her poise and you get that energy around the moment. But I wanted to highlight that and just think of myself as a little girl watching those beads fly in the air and just being so inspired and just looking at what looks like a superhero to me, and then seeing the very human side in the video. That's the dual kind of energy I wanted around using her as the subject.
Absolutely. Well, that's amazing. I really do also appreciate your focus on trying to allow the viewers to feel that energy, both that powerful energy and also that just very youthful, playful energy, because at the end of the day, she was, like you said, just a very confident and powerful young woman in this interview, but she was also young. And we have to allow ourselves to remember that, especially considering the fact that most Black children don't get to be young and playful and to experience those joys of childhood. So I love this piece, and it makes sense why so many people were interested in purchasing this piece, and we're trying to purchase it off of the person who purchased it. So it's just amazing.
Maybe go back to the video. Because when I listen, this is the part that I want to highlight around how the show really shifted from our conversation in February.
Oh,
Because when I listen back to Quincy and our conversation in February, there was a hesitance to include this video.
really?
And the video, and that lets you know the fullness of the show wasn't going to be so centered around Venus. And I wonder, Quincy, if you'd like to share a little bit about that hesitance. I thought it was poignant, some of the conversations we were having around cultural iconography and the flattening of an experience because of the popularity and the hypervisibility, exploitation almost, that is often coupled with a visuality of a celebrity.
Yeah. Okay. So in all honesty, I don't quite remember exactly what
I
went
can
down.
share a little bit. I can share a little bit.
Okay.
I remember, well, I listened to it earlier
Because
today.
I can actually kind of imagine where I would be coming from, not wanting to do that, but I'm like, I don't want to say a totally different thing, but I would have an angle.
You were coming from, we were saying we wanted the show to be majority abstract, and we wanted some legible, some figurative works. And this came to mind as like a center point, given your overall interest in what it means to be an individual within a collective.
Mm-hmm.
And that Venus in this visual expression in this video is a very finite experience, but it really speaks to like centuries and decades of projections upon Black women. And the hesitance was that perchance her image would supersede some of your broader interest, broader statements around collectivism, around projection upon identity.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And also, I kind of think just limiting it was definitely the type of video that if I was going to show it, I would really want to expand on that work and kind of have it kind of bridge the gap between what I'm showing and what angle that I'm coming in from viewing the work. And I think just because it's just such a Venus is a visual icon, and especially in this era, she's a visual icon. I didn't want the comparison probably of just her hair. I don't know. I think I wanted to make sure that it was a deep dive into what exactly her identity is as an icon and expanding on the dynamic qualities of that moment. I don't know. I think I need to listen to the conversation again, but
so I didn't want to throw that on you, but I listened to it today and I thought it was interesting. To me, it highlights an interesting pivot that we actually went ahead with the video and then really super emphasized it throughout the show.
Yeah, I think there's something about having a pop icon, and that kind of what they're known for can kind of like, your image can be flattened very easily. And I think one of the only ways that showing this video would have worked is either if it was alone or if there was kind of an ode to this moment in the rest of the exhibition. And so I think that's probably how we ended up building around the video. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So we're gonna transition to the stand set. So Quincy, if you can just jump right into it, tell us a little bit more about, first of all, what this moment is supposed to speak to, and I guess the process for creating these pieces and putting them together in this particular order as well.
Yeah, I think I was just thinking about what the role of the bystander is in this kind of well, I guess breaking down the tennis match, I'm kind of just channeling it into more universal concepts. So it's more of a portal into a deeper thing. But in this setting, it's just kind of like these are, you hear the audience clapping and applauding, and there's some kind of confusion, and they have a big energy in the space around Venus. And I just thought it was so interesting that tennis is kind of an isolating sport. You have a lot of people looking down on you. You don't have like your coach with you or your team on the court with you. and to just have this crowd kind of looking on and glaring at you while you're in this very isolating moment. I just want to emphasize that this is happening in the room as well, that there is a big audience. And I think painting around the edges, the periphery of the works, I wanted to expand on who really the audience is, and how time kind of affects what an audience really is, especially in sports. Like, I just wanted to have a little glow around this audience to represent the larger bystander, the larger audience, and whoever else is watching and impacted by this moment. So yeah, and I had them separated. I kind of wanted to make a whole bunch of little pieces out of the crowd, just to kind of something about breaking apart the little groups, giving them more of a view. There's such a mass that, a crowd in a sports game kind of remains ambiguous. And so I kind of wanted to break that ambiguity just a little bit. And of course, they're still very ambiguous. They're faceless, but giving them each that kind of moment and diving in and having each work be highlighted deeper. I think I wanted to just kind of zoom in and zoom out of these kind of blurred background pieces and elements.
Right. And so in consideration of the fact that most of the other drawings in the exhibition are just like totally like just complete abstraction, tell us a little bit more about visibility within these pieces, and how, like, for example, when you're very close to these pieces, it's a lot of lines, but as you step back, as you step further away, you can start to really see and feel the energy and the people who are in this crowd.
Yeah, I think there is something about that. There's a strength of being in a crowd, and then there's also, you get to claim less, you get to be an individual less. So just seeing a crowd as one type of organism, I always think about things as breaking apart and being put back together. So I really just kind of wanted to play with that with them, and acknowledging the specificity of this moment. Everybody in this room right now is kind of was a part of this scenario. And so, yeah, diving in and kind of like, you actually see people, you start seeing their hats, you're like, okay, somebody's clapping, somebody's scratching their head. You see, it just kind of emphasizes that there's usually more at play than things that are seemingly in a background. So this is really what I wanted to emphasize with that group. And then with the glow, I really wanted to break it apart so that there was, when you're in the space, you can really feel a glow between the crowd, and just knowing that once you kind of break this apart and look at a quote unquote bigger picture, there's a lot more than what we see on the surface, kind of. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Malik, did you have anything to say about the stand set?
No, I think they said it all very well.
Quinci, for the most part, you are an artist that creates sculptures, and these pieces are honestly so important to me, and I always enjoy just walking past them, being around them when I'm in the gallery. Because one, like, it's so familiar to me as a Black woman who used to have bubbles in her hair when she was little. But also just considering the fact that to a certain group of people, this is this is so alien. This is just so different, and just something that they just don't understand at all. And to see it hanging from the ceiling in this way, and see it dangling over them in this way, it's just really interesting. So can you talk to us a little bit more about these sculptures?
Yeah, these sculptures, they both kind of ebb and flow in meaning for me, because they're materials that I use on a regular basis. And then putting them in this installation, it was really nice to tie them to the concept of the show and build them around this moment, because with the piece on the left, the sidelines, in a way, I think the entire show is an audience watching this match and watching Venus and experiencing it through their own perspective. And so for these two pieces, it was really about, in the most direct sense, just the young girls and people who relate to this watching this moment and seeing it's about impact. And so I have them on, they're called the sidelines, and it's really also kind of expanding on what that glow around the audience in stands is. That glow around the audience in stands is this work as well. And so I just wanted that weight to be acknowledged and to highlight that, mix in that nostalgia and kind of a nod to anybody who can relate to this work. It's really just kind of like, if you can relate to it, you see it even deeper, and I love making pieces like that because especially just being at the gallery and seeing people look at it. And I love just hearing everybody gets nostalgic when they look at this piece and talking about the bubbles in their hair. I call them bobbles, some people call them bobos, and everybody has their own name for it. And they all just dive straight into, oh, I remember I used to get my hair braided. And I love like how everybody just snaps back into this chorus almost of, no matter what age somebody relates to it. I know a lot of people talk about their sisters or their cousins, or somebody they had a relative whose house they stay at who always did everybody's hair. And so yeah, those are the types of things I really try and emphasize with these pieces, and bringing them into the room with the video is kind of like there's a lot of people impacted by these like seemingly minuscule moments happening, across the globe even.
And I think it's really important that you, for this exhibition, kind of focus on highlighting the various epistemologies that made up this memory of like that moment, that interview, that match, and just how Sideline wanted to, for me, just affirm like Black women's epistemologies, and just the fact that much of our lives, when like just in general now, in the past, growing up as little girls, revolves around our hair, right? And what we do with it, what we do about it, other women's hair, and how it can bring us together, how it can tear us apart, etc. But how this, I'm just thinking back to what you were saying about witnessing people witness these sculptures, and how it brings people together. And affirms women in various ways. In light of that terrible moment for Venus and what they did to her hair, these pieces allowing us to do something else with what really comes out of our bodies, and what is very significant in our lives. It's really wonderful, and I've enjoyed every day that I'm at the gallery, being so close to both of these sculptures. So I want to thank you for creating them.
Oh, I'm so happy you enjoyed being with them, and it really warms my heart to hear that, definitely, because that's the point of works like that. Yeah.
Malik?
I want to make sure I'm saying the title correctly, Quincy. Please pardon me if my memory is failing me. The image on the right is looking on.
Yeah.
Looking on. I'm just really looking at the color and the way that the colors are blending into each other. And again, how that emphasizes, for me at least, how we can see the individual color and feel the individual aura or energy of a person, but yet they're blended into the collective. So I just want to say, even like your play on color, listening to our conversation earlier, a quote that I wrote down was just, color is so powerful. And you and I, in that conversation in February, we're talking about how certain colors are superimposed with meaning. And that meaning, especially for Black persons, can be very, very poignant, like red, black, and green, or, colors of a divine nine, sorority or fraternity. There's certain, like, just
Yes.
understanding that's so unspoken. And
Mhm.
so I just really wanted to acknowledge like the use of color and looking on. And that's really my pull and gravitation towards it. And also just the scale, like what you're emphasizing by making it at such a large scale.
Mhm. And it's interesting also, Malik, thank you so much for bringing that conversation of color into this conversation because it's important. And just also about collective memory. Like, I don't know if you guys saw on social media, they're asking people what color is the reading folder supposed to be? What color was the science folder supposed to be? What color was, math supposed to be? And everybody's like, math is red, and science is green. And just the fact that so many people, one, just know that or remember that. Color means everything. Colors mean everything. So can you talk to us a little bit more about the colors that we are looking at right now and experiencing right now?
Yeah, I mean, like even how you're speaking about color now, it is a portal into like the subconscious. There's just something that a color, I mean, all of the senses, like a certain smell, things that can really just snap you back. You don't even know how you like went back in time so quickly and so clearly. And I think for the colors here, I don't know. I just wanted something that with the one on the right, I actually thought about crocheting and crocheting patterns a bit.
Mhm.
And I also just thought about these youthful hair colors and different like cool little beads. I used to work at a camp recently. Not recently, I worked in undergrad. I worked at a theater camp. So another uh ode to Malik there, ode to theater, because I love theater. And so I think that also just ties into my practice. I love like a performative aspect. I love sets.
Mhm.
And when I worked at the theater camp, I would make all the little I would paint the sets and make little oh, I forgot what they're called, but little props for things. Anyways, I just thought about like, yeah, these youthful color patterns and kind of thinking of each segment of color as a chapter of, as an identity, as a collective in itself. Each like, with every piece with my practice in general, I really, really love to just dive in as much as I can and just speak to the macro and micro isms of a moment, like how much you can dive in, how much you can step out of something, how little something is, how big something is. It's all about perspective. And so I think color emphasizes that too. It can highlight a perspective, like the existence of one color can make something very contrasty. You can have a gradient. And so I think color is about relationships in a lot of artwork and especially in my practice. So with these works on the left, I definitely wanted just a little flow. I wanted an orb of color, and I wanted it to be like a chorus, like its own audience, like a stadium in itself with the flow of an applause, just like this contained um, flow. And then the piece on the right, I wanted a little bit more diversity, but because the beads are so much smaller, it's not as banging against each other. Is kind of like a glitch in a flow. And I think using the different size beads can help you emphasize what movement you're supposed to be having with these color relationships.
And so, what is the relationship between these colors and this moment that the exhibition is centered around?
I think it's just about uh I mean the works are both serving as audience members of the piece. And so yeah, like how the piece on the left sidelines, sideline 1 and sideline 2, um I wanted them to kind of have that audience type feel. And with the piece on the right, I also kind of wanted to highlight just even thinking about microaggressions and how things pile up. Not only do moments pile up, people can pile up, and yeah, I think it's really about people and experiences. Each bead is kind of its own universe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so just briefly before we transition, well, actually we can transition to um, this next piece, and then we're going to go back and talk a little bit more about sculptures when we look at the sun serve set. Tell us a little bit about one of my favorites, this gorgeous piece.
Yes, this piece is untitled, and I actually made it not in relation to this show. I made it separately, and I've made a few works like this where I stain the surface of the canvas and I kind of paint on the sides. That's kind of what inspired me to work that way with the stands series. And it's hard for me to talk about these works because I feel like they're about a lot of things, and they're about a lot of binaries and just different relationships between material. But I kind of think in a bigger sense, this painting is the periphery is about the essence and the surface is more about the body. And so I kind of wanted a way to experience or to paint a spirit or an essence or emphasize something around the glow around something. I was thinking about a glow
Mhm.
a lot more than anything. And it also, these works also just kind of speak to looking around the edges of something and not just taking something at face value. And I loved highlighting just the character of the wood. I kind of like my works to be viewed as objects
Mhm.
more than as a painting. A lot of times I often work on wood and I love that about it. It's just so tactile. And I just love highlighting just the natural elements in the wood just to acknowledge what I'm working with and to acknowledge what is supporting my practice even, these pieces of wood and just highlighting that DNA and that life that the wood has and using the edges to kind of make each piece kind of shine a different way. Yeah.
And so Malik, and like digging a little bit more into your curatorial vision, the placement of this piece, can you tell us a little bit more about what led you to hanging it where it is now in the exhibition?
Yeah, I can't recall specifically. I think some of the placements besides I'd say the video and gosh, my brain is forgetting me.
It's okay.
Thinking about the grid work with the audience, I think we wanted those to live in close proximity and relationship. I think the rest of the decisions were totally collaborative between Quincy and I, and were like purely aesthetic.
Mm.
I do think though, it is important that this is next to the statement. I know at first it was Venus, and we were kind of going
Right,
back
we were
and
going
forth.
back, and I remember you guys going back and forth about
Yeah.
which, if Venus would be next to the statement, or if this piece would be next to the statement. And so can you tell them a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think I like having Untitled next to the statement because to me it emphasizes the conversations that Quincy and I had in February and ongoingly around beyond the cultural moment of the 1999, Australian Open, but really some of the kind of universal themes, concepts, the ways that we socialize each other, the way that we perceive one another. I think for me, it hinted at the broader stroke of the exhibition. And so it was really nice to have that moment next to the statement. The statement really does really pinpoint a very important site, which is the Australian Open. But I think towards the latter half of that brief statement, I get to expound upon some of the themes and concepts that Quincy's working with. And I see this piece as being a testament and statement to those themes and concepts, particularly because there is, there's still some texture because it's wood and we can see a gradients of color, but, we're having a very flat monochromatic surface with the borders being so colorful. I just wanted to maybe challenge the viewer a little bit from jump. Because I kind of knew like everyone's gonna go to the video, they're gonna love the video, they're gonna love Venus. And there's other moments that are so tender and that require you to be a little bit more still. And so too, I also enjoy watching people in the space just to see the time and consideration that people are taking. You know, it's a solo show. It's a sizable but intimate gallery, but I still feel people taking their time with each piece, which I really enjoy and appreciate.
Wonderful. So we're gonna go back. Oh, not yet. I thought the Sun Serve set was next. So we can just very briefly, these two are my favorite pieces in this exhibition. This piece on the left, Untitled, was the first piece that I saw of this exhibition. I thought it was so stunning. I didn't even know what I was looking at, and I felt all the feelings. So Quinci, please, can you just tell us what's going on right here with these colors, and about these, like the way that this piece Untitled on the left is abstract piece, but how we can see some figures going on in the right, on the right side. Tell us what we're looking at. Talk a little bit more about what we ought to be feeling.
Yeah, well, I can't tell anybody what to feel, but I will say that both these pieces were really like therapeutic for me to make. And a lot of the materials I work with remind me of just like children's craft materials. So they're both heavily using oil pastel. And the one on the left, I kind of I was just trying to just show like a mass, like a wave, like just beautiful, just vision of movement, and I just love thinking about how little clusters just kind of look together in unison and in harmony, and how they just sparkle against one another, just how colors can do that. And it's kind of just like something that I made more of a stream of consciousness. And when it started to look like the wave, that was the part of me that was like, oh, I should kind of stop this piece. And I also made this piece, with, just within my painting practice, just thinking about just experimenting with form. And I really love this piece too. Like, it's kind of something that I don't really think I can just like make again. And the piece on the right, I've been doing a lot of drawings and paintings where I kind of have these like shadowy kind of, sometimes I think of them as ancestral figures or something in the wind, or, I think about it as the spirits that kind of guide our lives. And sometimes I think about the ancestral plane as a big party full of gossip, full of activity, disagreements, agreements, some people blocking, moving you left, someone's moving you right. And we have so many more ancestors than people on earth. So that world is just huge. And, I think that's kind of where that work is coming from a little bit. And I really am happy that they both kind of got included, because I feel like their spirit is a little similar. Yeah. And so I like showing these types of works together. And even with the last work, I think for me as an artist, who kind of has a different, and that's why I love the name Show Your Hand, but I have a different hand sometimes in some of these works. My methods of making change depending on what I want to convey, and the different materials that I use and stuff like that. But I'm really trying to I'm really trying to capture an essence more than directly draft something. And so they both just give me that same type of balance. But yeah, this one, it could even be a pixelated view. The one on the left, a pixelated view of the same spirits that are on the right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm that is just like so beautiful to hear about, particularly about Whispers, which is the piece on the right. And just thinking back on the video, which is a little blurry, which is not a HD, video of the interview and Venus playing. I would like to think that it is the whispers, or it was the whispers of her ancestors that really kept her so confident and so powerful in just such a nasty moment, nasty and unnecessary moment.
There's definitely a lot of activity on the ancestral plane that day, I'm sure, of her.
Had to have been, because yeah, and I look forward to people really listening to her part of the interview and just the way that she kind of just shrugged the nonsense off. That kind of confidence, they say, you don't create on your own. So
yeah,
that's beautiful to hear.
And the piece on the left, I really love having it shown with the painting of Venus and her hair moving. And the video also kind of has like this kind of movement in the overlay. And yeah, like just thinking about that power and that force and what's behind it, and how much it's the wind at your, like how much you're, where this power is coming from, and how much bigger it is than just the person in front of you today. It's a lot that carries a person through all these moments.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I guess in my mind, whenever she would hit the ball, or whenever she would just get ready to serve, I would just like to imagine that those are the colors that are behind every movement, or that precede every movement. Malik?
Yeah, this is a very specific reference, but again, I listened to the conversation with me and Quincy in February, and we talk about Pocahontas, and we talk about the song "The Colors of the Wind," and we talk about the ancestral plane and Pocahontas as that quasi fictional character, the way that she's portrayed in that portrayed. Thank you, but also just kind of like thinking about indigenous spirituality, modes of thinking, modes of being, philosophies, and all that we believe this material and natural world hold as information. And so hearing you talk about that toss up, it made me think about The Colors of the Wind, and even like the swoop and the kind of illustration in that film, to me, mirrors some of what's happening here as far as the color swashing. But that's just me being a nerd. I did want to ask Quincy, and I think it may lead into the Sunserve or Sunset series that we're going to view next, around your relationship to painting, because I know, at least for these two works that have a lot of like oil pastel, I had a lot of questions for you that were more just like technically oriented.
Yeah.
But I think an overall question I had was like, well, how was your time at Yale? Because you're painting and printmaking, but your painting practice really does pour into mediums that are not traditionally regarded as painting. So is there anything you want to share about, how you view yourself as being a painter that expresses that in a myriad of mediums?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was asked that while I was at Yale too, because I had a lot of sculptures in my studio at all times. And I ended up spending a lot of that time working on 3D works and making sculptures. But I think it was also just something that I was just diving into in that moment, because I love working in all kinds of mediums. And I talked a little bit about this in the talk that we have that is going to be featured in the catalog with Nazi, a little bit about how I got into Yale painting, what my time there was like. And I kind of said my relationship to the medium of painting is, well, my relationship to artwork is not limited to a medium. And I'm really grateful for the undergrad that I went to, that I rep all the time, Cooper Union. And you couldn't choose a major there. You couldn't even take more than 2 classes in the same discipline until like your second semester of your junior year. So you had to move around, because and I think in general, even if you did end up working specifically in one medium, it gave you a more well-rounded view of your medium and how you can install work, and just expanding just pushing the boundaries of how you work with within a medium. So when I was thinking about grad school, and Yale was one of the schools I wanted to consider attending for my MFA, I did a little research on just the diversity of the program, period. And Yale is more diverse just in terms of the student body, and it's a lot more faculty. And seeing the work after I've been in and out of those studios for a few years, I know a few people who went through that program. I just saw how experimental that space was. And I thought my relationship with color was something I could learn a lot more about in a formal sense. And I wanted to kind of look at my work through the lens of seeing them as three-dimensional drawings. Like I always felt like a drawer. That's how I feel like I am as an artist. I consider myself more of a drawer than anything. And I thought I could have a conversation around even my sculptures. I see them as drawings with just different angles. And I view installation as like drawing in space. And I thought I would be able to translate that conversation from painting into my practice and all the different mediums in the most fruitful way. And I definitely think that was the right decision. And I think a lot of those conversations around painting have helped me in all of the mediums that I'm working with.
So here we're finally at the Sun Serve set, and continuing on this commentary that you had about sculptures really just being drawings in space for you. Can you just talk to us about these pieces?
Yes. This is probably like a prime example of a drawing in space. I just kept drawing this form. All of the sculptural forms, I see drawing as manifestation, but I will draw, if I'm going to make a sculpture, I'll draw it like a million times. Even if it's the same way each time, I'll draw it so many times. Like, it's like I have a vision. I just want to see this thing. And so I see it as this image first, for sure. And so that's how I wanted the sun serve to kind of exist. I just wanted this gradient of the sun setting and just seeing it go from this like white, where it's kind of that, where it's kind of backlit by the blue and just very pale yellow, going into this rich, deep red, where there's that very powerful glow, and just kind of isolating the sun over the few hours of the hour of sunset. And yeah, it definitely existed as a drawing, mostly. And I had been kind of working with beaded wire before, and I wanted something that I think I'm trying to figure out exactly how I came to the conclusion that I wanted this piece. I think I knew that I wanted this shape. Like I said, I had the drawing, and then I decided to make it kind of more bulbous, to come out, to be more of a relief. When I started thinking about how I wanted the background, the mirror in the back, to interact with it. So I decided that I wanted a like convex type of security mirror, because I wanted it to interact with the network in the installation a little more. And I wanted each of these suns to kind of be a lens as well. And I wanted them to serve as that in the space. And so they became these more protruding figures in the installation.
Yeah, wow. Malik, did you have any thing to say about this set?
Not necessarily. I do think I'm now, maybe through this conversation, it's emphasizing for me how the mirror does really pronounce us as audience even more so. Like, looking at ourselves, we're looking at the person next to us because of the mirrored reflection. So I think that even if subtly, it's still it's echoing. It could stand alone outside of the context of the show, but given the context of the show, it does hyper emphasize surveillance given the shape. It hyper emphasizes surveillance and audience given the mirror. So there's just a lot going on here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think in the space, so for those who haven't been able to either visit the gallery yet or to see this exhibition virtually on our website, this set sits on a wall by itself. And, we talked about, well, and particularly Malik during the installation process really contemplated how these suns were going to sit on the wall. And, they ended up with this particular setting. And I just really appreciate the way that, like you said, Quincy, and thank you for so much for really emphasizing the mirror aspect of these pieces and what it's supposed to be doing, or how it's supposed to be in conversation with the rest of the exhibition. I just think it's so powerful. The color, the shape, the beading, the mirror, and how it's reflecting on the other side of Venus and Untitled, and the exhibition summary. It's like some of these pieces are directly in front of the exhibition summary. And so it's just wonderful to get a bit more of an understanding about, I think, what a lot of people would suggest is a very, very powerful moment in the exhibition. And like you said, also just this idea of these sculptures being drawings in space. And I think that's really emphasized in this shot as well. They look like they're just floating.
Mm-hmm.
And on the wall in the gallery space, they're just floating. And that's just so beautiful now that I know a little bit more about that and what sculptures are for you.
Yeah.
So we're going to stop sharing these images. Get back to the bigger screen. So, we're nearing the end of this talk, and I'm so grateful for what has been shared. I know the audience is going to eat this up. This has been truly a favorite exhibition since I've been at the gallery. The kinds of comments, remarks, the way people are just so excited to go to the gallery to see it in person, and their comments after, once they're leaving, it's been really, really, really beautiful to witness, and as they should be saying those things. But before we go, can we just talk a little bit more about this particular medium of sculptures for you? You said that you really are a drawer, but for this exhibition to really be centered around those really important and beautiful pieces, can you just talk to us a little bit more about your transition or your focus on sculptures?
Yeah, you're talking about the pieces in the back, right?
Mhm.
Looking on and the sidelines. Yeah, and what I mean by a drawer is that it's more of my mindset, and
Yeah.
so that's how I kind of have these images come to be. And I love just that stream of consciousness, repetitive mark making, and so that's also how I operate as a sculptor. I love that repetition, and I think for the type of for my lens as an artist, that repetition serves me really well, and I just love breaking things down by segment, and I think something that you can see in drawing, especially, I really appreciate about drawing, is that you get a sense of time very, very easily by strokes and movement. And you can see when something's sketched very quickly. You can see when somebody kind of feathered this, a pencil over something very lightly over a lot of time. And I love that about beading and crochet and all of these types of craft explorations. So I really love exploring that in my sculpture. And I do think as a sculptural substrate, Maleke and I have talked about this before, I think black hair is the first sculptural medium.
Mm.
It will continue to be an important medium forever, as long as humans are here. And that's why I love using it as my lens into exploring all these other artistic concepts. That's why I love using black hair and thinking about braiding and thinking about beading and thinking about even putting synthetic materials in your hair, putting different materials in your hair, sculpting your body, you know, in this way. I just think it's really powerful, really beautiful. And it's, I feel grateful to kind of work from that angle, because it's natural to me.
Yeah.
And that's how I interact with those materials using sculpture. I just would think about what my natural tendencies are. That's why I like to use kind of crayons and drawings. I love working with hair materials. They just take me back to a place that's very intuitive, and entering a space of just like, yeah, an inherited knowledge, and then also just my myself in my most open, which is like that, just moving your hands
Right.
and going from there. So I love doing that when I don't have a particular project I have to do, just crocheting something, crocheting strands, braiding braids, just doing that and knowing that something beautiful is going to come of it, and then I'm going to use it. And all I have to do now is just dedicate that time to just keep moving.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And so we're going to transition towards Malik for a bit and just talk briefly. You know, Malik, thank you so much again for guest curating this exhibition. You have such a gorgeous eye for things. So can you talk to us a little bit more about, one, your curatorial vision for the exhibition, but also the voices that you brought along to speak to and about Quinci's work?
Yeah, I think that one, this emphasized for me the way I like to work. You know, like it felt, as all shows do, like you're hanging stuff last minute. There's last minute changes. Like I think like some things just come with the territory of like a pace. But overall, we spent months in conversation, and I think we allowed ourselves to have nuance. So I think for me, this show emphasizes what is my curatorial vision and like how I want to like move and be in the world. So I'm really just appreciative of the process. As far as the catalog, which I think is a part of the curatorial vision, I think it's always important for me, at least, to have some added context, particularly in this age where Black art and Black artists are in vogue. And I think that's what I was maybe trying to hint at with the potential flattening of Venus,
Right.
is that there's a lot of Black cultural iconography that is absented of history or absented of nuance, just for the sake of like, we know that people
Bring it out there.
Yeah, it's like people are going to get it, or we assume people are going to get it, you know? And I think that the catalog for me was important because it gave an opportunity for us to really investigate not only this moment, but Quinci as a young, brilliant, talented artist. And so the persons who we invited in are peers of Quinci and I. Tiffany Garrett, who is a friend of mine, friend of Quinci's. She works formally at the National Museum of African American History and Culture, and does have a digital initiative, the Black Art Club, where she in her own way is uncovering an archive and really starting to track art history in a way that is very, very digestible. Like it's on Instagram, like everyone has minutes to just kind of read and understand. And then Nancy Kalela Mutiti, who, you know, I'm really happy for Nancy for all the things she's accomplished, but recently being the chair of the graphic design program at Yale University. I met Nancy working on a project at Stable Arts last summer, and Quinci and Nancy have a relationship via Yale, and I believe Quinci's brother. And so I invited her in because I saw some common threads in their practice, and I'm really happy for the conversation that they had and that it's documented in this catalog. I think that it really does pinpoint not only some nice moments of the exhibition, but some true theoretical nuances in the Black art canon, thinking about hair, thinking about sculpture, thinking about adding forms that exist in very sterile ways and adding like our own vernacular experiences to them and vernacular nuances. So I'm really happy for the catalog and ready for persons to read it and experience it. Yeah.
So I can also attest to how wonderful that's going to be. Specifically the moment of the interview, the conversation. It's lengthy, it's beautiful. I feel like between you and Nancy, there's so many revelatory moments in that conversation, and for it to be where it's placed in the catalog. I'm really excited for people to read that and read Quinci in a different way. So it's going to be beautiful. And thank you, Malik, for bringing those voices onto the catalog. Like, the catalog is what it is because of those images and because of the words and the voices that lead all throughout the catalog. So thank you for that.
Thank you. It's such a good time.
Yeah.
I second that. Thank you. And I have so much thanks to Tiffany and Nazi, who were so generous. Nazi was so busy and she still made the time to do that interview with me. And it was just such a delight to speak with her. And she's just so intelligent and so gracious. And I was very humbled to be able to have a conversation about our practices together.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and I'm excited for the catalog. I think it's going to be really nice.
It will be. It's going to be gorgeous. It's going to be a wonderful moment that people can return to at any time. And I'm excited for them. I'm excited for that.
And thank you for your essay too, Malik. I really enjoy it. Yes.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful to you for this exhibition.
You.
Yes. We didn't talk about it enough. We didn't talk about it enough, but it really, truly, Malik had so much, was such a backbone of this exhibition. And it was just so collaborative, like every step of the way. A lot of the decisions that were made, we were just bouncing back and forth. I'll be texting Malik like, what do we think about this? And we just curated that space together. And yeah, and I'm grateful for you, Kalila and Mahari. And I love the gallery space, and it was so fun to kind of just play around in it and go all up and around the beautiful architecture of the gallery.
Yes, well, and thank you so much for the ways in which your pieces have really brought the space to life, back to life, in ways that previous exhibitions have not been able to because of the kinds of pieces that were included. And it's been inspiring to others, others who are interested in utilizing our space and collaborating with us for exhibitions. They literally saw looking on and were like, we have to put something here too. So thank you for that. You just did so much for the space, seriously. So thank you so much. And so, of course, the most important question is, what's next for the both of you? What should people be looking out for? I mean, they're of course going to be following you both on Instagram and, you know, keeping up with you all and how in whatever ways they can. But what should they be excited for?
Well, I'm taking this year to reflect mostly, but it's always times like that where you end up being the most busy, because I kind of thought that a little bit about this summer, and this summer is so jam-packed for me with a lot of amazing things. And I'll be going to a residency shortly, honestly, like tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. I'm going to a residency upstate at Storm King and Shandaken projects, where I'll get to live on the Storm King grounds. And so I'm just excited to learn about public sculpture, because I love just thinking about different ways that work can be accessible. And I would just love to think about making works that are public facing. And I hope that that's something that I can dive into in the near future. That's definitely something I want to explore more. But I think I'm just going to get my new studio in Maryland together over this next year, reflect, and just reevaluate all the things I've done since graduating.
Okay. And I'm so happy to have you back in the
Yes.
DMV. Yeah.
Yes. I hope a collaboration with Malik and I. We're already talking about new things, so I hope we can talk about something like that soon.
And I was gonna say, you mentioned theater, like it came up in the show, but like hearing you talk about the show, it is like a theatrical production. Like there's so much, like there's a round happening, there's so much happening in the space. For myself, I'm keeping it low key. I mean, like there's probably things that are happening for myself, but I'm intentionally not putting much on my calendar and not being super ambitious right now. And like just doing the work of, you know, I'm that's so deep. I'm approaching 30. Like, what does that even mean? You know what I'm saying? But it's just like, I think I'm doing like the life work. I'm like, well, what do I really want out of this life experience? And that will manifest in things that people can experience. But right now, that's not my priority. And my priority is like taking care of myself. And I'm looking forward to that manifesting in work, but
Yeah.
I'm intentionally like not setting a lot up for myself this upcoming year.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
The activity follows you whether you look for it or not. You know, if you have you got to be ready for it.
Yeah.
You have to make sure you do.
Yeah.
Well, I guess instead of saying what should people be looking out for, this is what people should be encouraged by. You
I
know?
love that.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So thank you both so much for this conversation. It was beautiful. Quinci, thank you so much for just talking about your beautiful work, your craft, your calling. I don't want to keep saying thank you, but just like thank you so much. It was just so beautiful to hear more about these pieces, like I said, that I sit with often. And I'm really happy for the audience. And if they haven't already, if they want to go back, they can have this information to go into it with and experience it in those different ways. And so really thankful for you, Maleke, again, for the voices that you brought on this catalog, for the way you put that catalog together. For anybody who's interested, we will have the catalog available on our website for pre-order. So if you'd like to purchase the catalog, you can stop by the gallery, see a hard copy of it, see if you want it, read the gorgeous piece, and I know you're going to purchase it. So then you could just head over to our website and it'll be available for you and be shipped to you. So thank you one last time, Quinci Baker, Maleke Glee. Hope you guys have a beautiful evening.
Thank you, Kalila.
Thanks,
Hearts of
Kalila.
our gallery. Thank you.